ऑल गुड? राखी पे घर पे रिलेटिव्स के यहाँ पे जाके आए? गुड। नहीं गए? कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है। तो स्टार्ट करें? ठीक है, विल हैव अराउंड, आई एम अमन एंड आई विल बी taking care of your economic classes, and we'll have around 44 classes. So it will be like 6 classes per week, 6 into 7. We go to like around 2 months. Around 2 months classes होंगे. We are in August, right? So October 10th, हाँ बेटा, 44 classes. 44 classes. So before Diwali, we'll wrap it up. Right? So whenever you go on a Diwali vacation, you would be comfortable that yes, a big chunk of our syllabus has been done. A big subject has been done. Right? And most of your graduates are graduates, right? And you are appearing in 2026. All of you? Good. And okay. What about your like basic studies, like NCRTs? Have you read them? You haven't read them. It's okay. It's totally okay. Okay. And then you are reading newspapers. That's what. Regularly. बिल्कुल एकदम religiously कि it won't be missed, come whatever may happen. Is it? Or like you get time, you read it. You don't get time, you don't read it. How do you go about it? Compulsory? There's only one guy saying compulsory. Other people? Not जरूरी. Time मिला किया, time नहीं मिला नहीं किया. Is it? Newspaper is important. Look, point is, first in today's session, it will be introduction to economy and national income. I'll give you an overview of what we are going to do, how we are going to do, and then we'll be starting with national income. Okay? Look, everyone emphasizes about current affairs. Yes, current affairs are important. So I would be telling you what's the importance of current affairs, but I would also tell you what's the importance of conceptual clarity or fundamentals. Okay? For example, we have geography, economy, polity, and history, right? These four are major subjects. Society, governance, IR, social justice, internal security, environment, science center, and disaster management. Ethics will keep it totally separate. Ethics, we keep it separate, right? Okay. Now, these four subjects, why are they called major subjects? They're called major subjects because geography, polity, history, each one of them, it would give 15 questions in the prelims exam. They would give around 15. It can go to 15 to 20. It can be even 10 to 15, but it would never be less than 10. On an average, 15 questions would come from each of these subjects. At the same time, they would give you 9 to 10 questions in the mains exam. Okay? So you cannot leave these subjects and think of clearing prelims or think of clearing mains. Similarly, you do geography. Geography will be helpful to you in geography plus environment plus disaster management. Eco would be helpful to you in essay. Eco would be helpful to you in your, I would say, personality test. It would be important in your ethics also. Examples will be required everywhere. Data would be required everywhere. Polity, without understanding polity, you cannot do governance, Without doing understanding polity, you cannot do IR. Right? And history as such is like a huge chunk of prelims and mains comes from history. These subjects, internal security, only mains 2 questions. Environment, prelims, it may give 10 to 15 questions, but mains, there would be 1 or 2 questions only, not more than that. Science tech, again similar to environment, prelims, it would give you 10 to 15 questions, mains 1 to 2 questions, disaster management mains 2 questions. Society, only mains 2 questions, governance, only mains 2 to 3 questions, IR, places in news, 10 questions in prelims, and 1 to 2 questions in main. Social justice, only mains 2 questions. What's the point? The point is 4 subjects they would help us in prelims and mains both, and those 4 are these subjects. Right? So, at the same time, everyone specifies that the current affairs is important, but if you see last 10 years questions of economy, 70%, 70 to 80% are from static questions, especially in mains. 70 to 80% questions are from mains, directly from mains syllabus. And even for the prelims, in the prelims, the years 17, 18, 19, these 3 years, they were actually predominant of current affairs, not only economy, but all the subjects. Whether it was polity or economy or science and tech, total dependence on current affairs. But since 2020, the pattern has changed considerably. For example, this year around 14 questions were there in the prelims. Out of them, 12 questions were conceptual questions. Only 2 questions from the current part. Why I am saying this? First of all, for economy, conceptual clarity is important. We will be doing as per what the syllabus says. Second thing, what's the relevance of current affairs? If only 2 questions are coming from current affairs over here, hardly anything in current affairs, why do we read current affairs? Uska value kya hai, right? Value ye hai that whenever we write mains answer is always, there would be a point, very short description. Well, I'll be telling you later on how to go about it. Very short description, and there would always be an example for it. This example is always a data. And if this data is current, it's going to fetch you more marks. So the example in every point will be a data, and data should be current. Are you able to understand? So you need to understand one thing. For example, how old are you guys? 24, 23, 22? यही एज होगी? 20, 22, 23, 21 to 24 है ना? यही एज होगा, right? So like around, अभी क्या चल रहा है? 2025, right? So in 2017, 2018, imagine what were you doing? Everyone? 17, 18? Schools. So were you aware about little bit of societal challenges that time? Like point. Was AI that dominated that time? Were you afraid that AI would take your job? Things have changed. 17, 18. Were you even aware that semiconductor revolution may take place in India? You imagine, like, how many of you are engineers? Okay. In engineering in India, even in so we have electronics, computer science, IT, mechanical, electrical, civil, right? For the last 30 years, our students are getting placed in IT companies. There's demand of IT companies. So what would the engineering colleges do? The curriculum of electronics, mechanical, civil, even biotech would have some portion of computer science. So that when the companies come for placement, these kids should not struggle. So we were teaching computer science predominantly. Most of the engineering colleges would have computer science seats, more of computer science seats, more of IT seats, less of other seats. And the kids of other branches, electrical, electronics, mechanical, civil, they won't get placed in core companies. You understand what is core company? Core companies, electrical का बच्चा electrical company में जा रहा है, electronics का बच्चा electronics company में जा रहा है. That's called getting placed in core company. बट इंडिया के केस में क्या है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स हो, मैकेनिकल हो, सिविल हो, जो मर्जी हो, डे वन प्लेसमेंट इज इन्फोसिस और टीसीएस. एवरीवन गेटिंग प्लेस्ड इन आईटी कंपनीज. डिमांड आईटी कंपनी वाले के. बट अभी क्या है, एआई इज ईटिंग अप आईटी जॉब्स. नाउ दिस डिमांड ऑफ सेमीकंडक्टर्स. सो नाउ along with electronics and electrical, even CSE and IT students would be learning electronics. The reason being there is demand of electronics job. Things are changing. You understand what's the meaning of things are changing? When things are changing, we need to change. We need to evolve. So if you are an IAS, would you be looking for problems of 2026 or would you be looking for problems of 2017? 26. Those cases where you have to be very well apprised of the newspaper. Tomorrow you get into service, say a training of 7-8 months, then you get into probation, you go to on the field job training. You would be doing only the current challenges of society, current challenges of polity, current challenges of economics. All current challenges you will be going through. It cannot be staying 10 years back when the challenges are new. So therefore, if you really want to succeed in the exam, you need to read current affairs. And you need to have a good viewpoint of current affairs. Monthly magazines won't help. Monthly magazines, they help you in revision. And you know what? You'll have to read at least 2 monthly magazines. I'm just giving you homework. Go to any shop after the class and compare any 2 monthly magazines. Any 2, which you like. Just compare the indices. The index of subjects. इकोनॉमी में क्या क्या टॉपिक कवर हुए मंथली मैगजीन ए, इकोनॉमी में क्या क्या टॉपिक कवर हुए मंथली मैगजीन बी. Similarly, compare polity, compare science and tech, there would be only 20% things in common. So how do you decide which one to read? So reading would be a lottery. It's quite possible to read one thing and things don't come from this, they come from something else. It's quite possible the one who is making monthly magazine at one institution, that content guy, he is good in economics. Or say even in economics, he is good in banking. And he may not be liking the budget. So he will be putting more topics of banking, he won't be putting topics of fiscal policy or budget. दूसरे वाले का opposite है, he is good in budget, he is not good in banking. वहाँ पर topics reverse हो जाएगा. But we cannot rely upon chances, right? When we are putting up so much effort, so much of energy, so much of money, so much of emotions, we cannot be relying on someone else to decide my destiny. The whole India reads only one monthly magazine. And if that would be giving the questions, why are everyone failing and why is the cutoff going down? Cutoff is going down, right? So there would be something which we are doing wrong. And that wrong is we are relying on, how many of you see that, watch that newspaper analysis on the YouTube? नहीं करना है वो. You know, one of the reasons why you shouldn't be doing newspaper analysis is it never lets you grow. For example, you start reading newspaper now, today, right? How much time it would take to read complete newspaper A to Z? सारा पढ़ लेता 40 में. Since how long you have been reading it? It's 4 years of energy is there, right? I actually wanted to come to that point. You start reading it would be taking 2 hours, 2 hours 30 minutes. 100% इतना लगेगा. Reason? Two reasons. First, English. Second, unawareness about the background. Everything is new. So, anyone who has ever prepared for UPSC, anyone who is preparing for UPSC, and anyone who would be ever preparing for UPSC and is starting to read newspaper, he would take 2 hours 30 minutes initially. Lagenge. And how do you start? You start with front page, you read front page, second page, third page, फिर last में. By the time it's already 2 hours, you come to the editorial page. That's how you do it. And then you see the editorial page, you see the big editorials. छोड़ना यार. It makes you give up because the articles are so long. Why not to start with editorials first? Point is, in newspaper, multiple stories go side by side. एक स्टोरी चल रहा है बिहार इलेक्शन का, एक स्टोरी चल रहा है इंडिया अमेरिका का, एक स्टोरी चल रहा है रशिया यूक्रेन का, एक स्टोरी चल रहा है इजराइल पैलेस्तीन का, एक स्टोरी चल रहा है क्या चल रहा है इकोनॉमिक्स के अंदर तो टैरिफ ही चल रहे हैं, राइट. So there are multiple different stories going on at the same time. So to understand each of these stories, you need to know background of these stories. Obviously, you cannot start digging a background of everything. You would just never start. So think what you can do is start reading newspaper. In the end of every article, one paragraph is always given for the background. It's always there. Always one paragraph at the end of the article for the background. If you keep on reading it, after 2 months of reading, 3 months of reading, you would have in the fourth month you would have a background of 3 months read by yourself. So now after 6 months, you would take 45 minutes to read newspaper. That's a guarantee. But then don't tell me, sir, I'll start reading after 6 months only. 45 minutes like 6 months बाद करेंगे नहीं. You need to put in these 2.5 hours daily. तब जाके it would become 45 minutes at the end of 6 months. Thing is, how do people clear the exam in first attempt? How do they do it? They complete syllabus faster. That's how they do it. And how do I complete syllabus faster? I read faster. To read faster, you need to have a grasp on the background, basically the content, and you need to have a grasp on the English also. Both these things. दोनों पे आपको grasp चाहिए, hold चाहिए. So if you watch this newspaper analysis on YouTube, it would give you knowledge. It would never improve your reading speed. It would never improve your English. And most of these newspaper analysis are in Hindi. So, like learn in your listening in Hindi, you will find it difficult to reproduce in English. Ultimately, if you have to reproduce in English, if you have to write in English, we need to be reading everything in English. So read in English. It would take time. It would take 2.5 hours every day. And do one thing, give your prime time for it. If you would be having one prime time of the day, probably you have a optional class either at 2 o'clock or say 8 o'clock, right? You are from which batch? PSR optional batch कब होता है आप लोगों को बच्चों को? Morning batch? So at least from 9 to 11:30 you are free. 8 to 10:30 you would be free. Give that prime time to this. Get into a habit. Unless you get into a habit of specific time, specific thing, things won't be covered. You would have in your head, आज कुछ नहीं करना, 9 बजे newspaper तो newspaper. Get into a habit of reading newspaper. Okay? Because without newspaper, economics is not going to give you fetch. Economics is not going to fetch you good marks. करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है? Then then thing is, initially, like most of you, your optional would be going on, right? So when the optional goes on and side by side we have GS classes, right? So 5 hours of dedicated class time is there, right? At the same time, for example, if this class is at 11 o'clock, you would be leaving your room at least at 10:30. At least at 10:30, right? You leave your house at 10:30, then obviously you will be getting ready at 10 o'clock, right? 10. And you would be reaching your home by 2:15, having food, taking some rest. It's already 3 o'clock. So 10 to 3, right? 2.5 hours of class, 5 hours gone. So initially when you will be going through this classes, it's with everyone. Initially when kids have these classes of optional classes and GS classes, they do not get time for self-study. If you're not getting time for self-study, you're not getting time for revision, it's okay. That's how it is. When you do not have time for self-study, do not buy a reference book. You buy a reference book only when you have time to read it. Buying a book is very easy. पैसा दिया ले लिया. Reading a book takes time. Right? So what you should be doing is when your classes are going on, make sure you go back home and whatever is done in the previous class, you revise it properly. वो सबसे important. मतलब क्लास नोट्स याद करो, क्लास नोट्स रिवाइज करो, उसके बाद कुछ टाइम मिले तो न्यूज़पेपर करो, रेफरेंस बुक बाद में, अभी कुछ नहीं. Is it okay? Let's start the class. You want me to ask you something? कुछ पूछना है? चले. You know, there are certain chapters which give questions only for main. There are certain chapters which give questions only for prelim. So we will decide which chapters. Look, there is a difference. There's a difference in the sense कि if we talk about other subjects में क्या है? It's the syllabus which would decide the type of questions which come in the exam. UPSC में ऐसा नहीं है बेटा. UPSC में the questions one would come from RBI, would come from banking, would come from budget, would come from WTO. Nothing of this type is mentioned in the syllabus. है ही नहीं. Syllabus में सिर्फ है mobilization of resources. What exactly is mobilization of resources? No one tells. The point is, other exams, syllabus gives questions. अपने ऐसा नहीं है. UPSC में the PYQs which decide the syllabus. So we will see from where are the questions asked earlier. जिस चैप्टर से प्रीलिम्स से क्वेश्चन आए वो हम प्रीलिम्स के लिए पढ़ेंगे. जिस चैप्टर से मेन से क्वेश्चन आए मेन से पढ़ेंगे. जैसे एग्जांपल में देता हूँ लैंड रिफॉर्म्स और फूड प्रोसेसिंग. These two chapters specifically for main. Last 12 years no question has come in the mains exam. No question has come in the prelims exam. Mains में आए हैं कुछ. On the other hand, if I talk about chapter of banking, you won't believe, banking has given 0 question in the mains exam. 0. Pre में it would give a lot of questions every year. ठीक है? ओके, उठ जा बेटा. अलार्म बजा कि नहीं बजा अभी? गो एंड वॉश योर फेस. आपको कह रहा हूँ. हाँ ठीक. Whenever you sleep, please sleep behind a tall guy. टीचर को नहीं पता लगना चाहिए कि तुम सो रहे हो. ठीक है? तो similarly, if I talk about chapter balance of payment chapter मतलब where we discuss about chapter on the topics of rupee appreciation, depreciation, exchange rate, ये सब. POP very important for prelims. Mains के लिए last 12 years only one question. So we have to be very clear which chapters we will be doing for prelims and which chapters we will be doing for main. वो strategy बड़ी important होनी चाहिए. ठीक है? And also one more thing which I would like to tell you is, do not watch the toppers videos of what should be the strategy. Strategy varies from individual to individual. You are different entities or different individuals. Toppers are different individuals. टॉपर कहेगा मैंने कभी आंसर नहीं लिखे. टॉपर कहेगा मैंने कभी साइंस एंड टेक नहीं पढ़ा. आप ठीक है, मैं भी साइंस एंड टेक नहीं पढ़ूंगा, मैं भी आंसर नहीं लिखूंगा. आपको ये नहीं पता कि जो टॉपर था वो स्कूल टाइम में साइंस ओलंपियाड का विनर था और वो ऐसे ओलंपियाड का भी विनर था। उसको नहीं चाहिए ये सब। समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? उसको ऐसे राइटिंग आता है, उसको साइंस टेक्स्ट आती है, आपसे तो कहीं अच्छी आती है, उसको नहीं पढ़ने की जरूरत। आपको उसका बैकग्राउंड स्टेटस नहीं पता, आपने वो रील देख ली कि मैं तो ये नहीं करता था, मेरा सिलेक्शन हो। You are different people, you are at different level of preparation. You need to know what is required to clear the exam, and you need to know what do you have and how do you fill this gap. That's what we have to do. आंसर लिखने हो तो आंसर लिखेंगे, एमसीक्यू सॉल्व करने तो एमसीक्यू सॉल्व करेंगे, न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ना हो तो न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ेंगे, whatever is required to clear the exam will do it. So you need to have your own strategy. Each one of you would have different strategy. Even तुम्हारे फ्रेंड की स्ट्रेटेजी भी तुम्हारी स्ट्रेटेजी नहीं हो सकती है। ठीक है, चलो शुरू करते हैं। हाँ, one last thing. I would suggest that instead of having copies, you have loose A4 sheets. Loose A4 sheets would be helping you in remaining flexible. जैसे अभी तो आपके पास नोटबुक है, राइट? तो नोटबुक से कुछ पेज निकाल लीजिए, स्पाइरल है, घर जाके स्पाइरल खोल लीजिए, राइट? बिकॉज A4 sheets, loose A4 sheets, they give you a lot of flexibility. Flexibility in the sense they help you add current affairs at the end of every chapter. For example, if I talk about GDP, if I talk about national income chapter, right? Till last year, the base year to calculate GDP was 2011. And now there is a proposal, they want to keep it to 22-23. The new base year would be 22-23. This new current update has come up, right? So if you have a chapter, the national income is completing these two chapters, and third next chapter starts from here. A new update comes. Where do you add it? You don't have space. You have loose A4 sheet. You can add it over here. I hope you're able to understand this. So loose A4 sheets, updation can be done over here. Rather, for subjects like environment, science tech, eco, even politics, they are basically current affairs, I would say, subjects. A lot of current updates would be there. On every page, write a margin on the side. Leave a margin on the side. This margin will be for current updates. I hope you can understand this. So if there is any news on WTO, the WTO dispute settlement body, we have discussed here DSP. And here something new comes up, we can add it over here. The topic gets completed comprehensively. Instead of looking for static at one portion, current at some other portion, if both the things are at one place, it would make your life very easy. Okay? So fair enough, let's start. Introduction to economics. So what is economics? हाँ जी, कोई तो बताइए। हाँ, right. So write down. Economics means management of scarce resources or the optimum utilization of the scarce resources. आगे लिखिए। Economics is theory. Economics is theory and it tells us about different concepts of the syllabus. Different concepts of the subject. Different concepts of the subject. Example: inflation, GDP, budget, etc. Next paragraph. On the other hand, economy, Modi Sarkar. On the other hand, तुम लेट समझे. On the other hand, economy, economy. The word. On the other hand, the word economy. On the other hand, the word economy doesn't have any sense or any meaning. The word economy, the word economy gets a meaning to it, only when it is associated with a specific region or area. Example: Indian economy, Indian economy, or world's economy, or US's economy. Economy is the practical. Economy is the practical. When all concepts of the subject are discussed with reference to India, we would get Indian economy. समझ में आई आपको बात? तो अब समझो कि our syllabus is not economics. So we won't be doing economics as a subject. Our syllabus is Indian economy. So we won't be focusing that much on like overall concepts. We will be focusing on concepts, but the focus would be more on India. So we would be doing inflation, but we won't be discussing general reasons for inflation. We will be discussing reasons for inflation in India. We will be discussing budget of India. So budget will be discussing in detail. Analysis of budget would happen in detail, but otherwise general I would say general discussion won't happen. Is it okay? Let's start with the first chapter. Chapter is national income. National income. First topic is types of goods. Types of goods. Final goods, intermediate goods. Final goods. The goods used for consumption purposes. The goods used for consumption purposes. Are final goods. Are final goods. Goods used for consumption purposes are called final goods. Example, पोहा. पोहा का यूनिवर्सल ब्रेकफास्ट, राइट. पोहा रोज तुम लोग पोहा ही खाते हो ना? नहीं, चेंज कर लेते हो, एक दिन पोहा एक दिन उपमा. खुश. पोहा उपमा. थर्ड थिंग कुछ और है क्या? साबुदाना खिचड़ी. ब्रेड. भयंकर गरीबी एकदम, है ना? ठीक है. Intermediate goods, write down. Goods used to produce the final goods. Goods used to produce the final goods. Example, rice flakes, onion, tomato. While making poha. समझ में आ रही है बात? तो जो टमाटर प्याज वगैरह जो भैया यूज करते हैं वो है इंटरमीडिएट गुड्स, और जो आप इस्तेमाल करते हैं वो फाइनल. So whether a good is final good or an intermediate good, it would depend upon its usage. For example, you bring onion at your home, you bring tomatoes at your home, and you make salad out of it. That time onions and tomatoes are the final. When someone else is using it, making something else, that time it is the intermediate. Are you able to understand that? There's one more good, which is capital good. चाय पिएगा? मंगवा देता हूँ, चाय पीनी है तो. नींद आ रही है तो. Capital goods are also used. Capital goods are also used to produce the final goods. But there is a difference between capital goods and intermediate goods. इसे कैपिटल गुड के एग्जांपल आप लिख लीजिए एक सेंटेंस पहले. एग्जांपल इज द गैस स्टोव यूज्ड टू प्रोड्यूस पोहा. Used to make poha. The gas stove used to make poha, it's example of capital good. ठीक है, तो क्या डिफरेंस है कैपिटल गुड में और इंटरमीडिएट गुड में? डिफरेंस ये है that while producing final goods, capital good won't be used up completely, but intermediate good would be used up completely. For example, from an onion you can make poha only once. Once the poha is made, you cannot reuse the onion again. But from the gas stove or from the kadahi, I would say, you can keep on making poha again and again. The kadahi or the big utensils the person has, that's a capital good. Onion, it's a intermediate. Can you understand this? Write down. Intermediate goods are used up completely. Intermediate goods are used up completely in producing the final good. But capital goods are not used up completely while producing the final good. Is it okay? Clear? Next topic. Types of years. Types of years. Why are you laughing? Huh? Look, whatever I write on the board, you need to write it in your notebook. ठीक है? Even if I write कुछ भी, मैं बोर्ड पे क्या लिखूं? कुछ भी लिखूं, तुम लोग अपने नोटबुक में क्या लिखोगे? कुछ भी. ठीक है? लिख लिया? आपको पता नहीं क्या लिखा है? फिर आप बोर्ड पे देख के क्यों लिख रहे हो? You don't have trust in me or yourself. For me, after August, September would be coming up. What about your place? Your doubt? Directly October. नहीं, अक्टूबर आएगा डायरेक्टली, सितंबर आएगा. हो गया जी, चले अब समझो. लिखना नहीं है. Hold on. Look, how do we go is, whenever I'll be teaching, you keep on making running notes. Okay? I would dictate, but you keep on making running notes. But if there is something important, I would tell you stop writing. That time you need to focus and understand. Otherwise, writing and understanding, both of them go simultaneously. I hope it's okay. तो समझो. अभी हम कहाँ हैं? अभी हम इधर है, right? August में, right? Like most of you would be having calendars at your home. So calendar, it starts from 1st of Jan, goes till 31st of December. So we have first year is a calendar year. First year is a calendar year. Calendar year क्या होता है? The way we see it in a calendar. For example, calendar year, whether it is for US or it's for UK or it's for India, it would always start from 1st of Jan and would go till 31st of December, right? And calendar year would always be written like this: 1947, 1971, 1984, 2020. समझ में आ रही बात? The year which we see in a calendar, it's called a calendar year. देख लीजिए बोले, the year which we see in a calendar, the year which we see in a calendar is a calendar year. हाँ जी, ठीक है, चले आगे. दूसरा है फाइनेंशियल ईयर. Second is financial year. The year used for financial accounting purposes. The year used for financial accounting purposes. ठीक है, जैसे इंडिया के केस में. एंड एक और चीज लिख ली. एंड फाइनेंशियल ईयर and financial years starting and ending month vary from country to country. For example, in India's case, it starts from 1st of April, goes till 31st March. Pakistan, 1st of July to 30th of June. ठीक है, तो वेरी करता है. And multiple developed countries have it from 1st of January to 31st of December. Have it from 1st of Jan to 31st of December. ठीक है, तो वेरी करता रहता है, सबके लिए सेम नहीं है, राइट? अब इसमें क्या है कि इंडिया के केस में क्या, स्टार्ट फ्रॉम हियर, गोस टिल हियर. तो इंडिया के दिस इज द फाइनेंशियल, राइट? लिखना नहीं है, समझो. तो you see, for India's case, the financial year, it would consist of these 9 months and these 3 more months. It's going to consist of 9 months of 2025. It's going to consist of 3 months of 2026. In India's case, a single financial year spreads across 2 different calendar years. समझ में आ रहा है बात? इसलिए for India's case we will be writing financial year 25-26. Can you understand this? For example, we are here, right? So we would say we are in calendar year 2025, but we are in financial year 25-26. ठीक है, ये जो 25-26 है ना, it's also written as financial year 26. So whenever I write financial year 26, it doesn't mean 26-27. It means 25-26. समझ में आ रही है बात? ये चीज लिख लीजिए. Write down. In India's case, the financial year starts from 1st of April and goes till 31st of March. Therefore, India's one financial year is spread across two different calendar years. For example, the financial year of 25-26 would have 9 months of calendar year 25 and 3 months of calendar year 26. Therefore, in India's case, the financial year would be written as 25-26. Financial year would be written as 25-26. Bracket, also written as FY26. ठीक है जी. अब समझो. Every year it has 4 quarters. ठीक है. Each quarter would have 3 months. ठीक है. ये है. ठीक है. अब समझो, ये जो है ना, ये वाला, दिस इज Q2 calendar year 2025. सही है ना? जैसे ये वाला जो, ये क्या है? Q1 calendar year 25 है ना? ये क्या हो गया? Q2 calendar year 2025. अभी हम कहाँ हैं? अभी हम यहाँ हैं, राइट? दिस इज Q3 calendar year 2025, right? But ये जो है, this is right the same. This is Q1 financial year 25-26. सही है. ये जो अभी हम यहाँ पे हैं, this is Q2 financial year 25-26. 26। ऐसे ही ये जो है दिस वन, दिस इज Q1 कैलेंडर ईयर 26, बट फाइनेंशियल ईयर के हिसाब से Q4 फाइनेंशियल ईयर 25 26। कोई डाउट किसी बच्चे को? लिख लीजिए। बता। Britishers brought it here. It is not we decided it. Britishers brought it here. बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं. Rather in the year 2017-18, it was a proposal that we should align our financial year with calendar year. It was a proposal. काफी सारी discussion भी हुई, but then nothing happened. हो गया जी? चलें आगे. Can we continue? अब समझिए. Next topic is GDP. Write down. Gross domestic product. Gross domestic product. It is the market value of all final goods and services. Market value of all final goods and services produced by the factors of production. By the factors of production within the domestic boundary of a country. Within the domestic boundary of a country in a period of one financial year. In a period of one financial year. ठीक है? समझो अभी. Like here at Shubhra Ranjan IAS, what do we produce? We are producing services, right? So whether we produce services or someone is producing goods, ठीक है? To produce goods and services, we need factors of production, right? And following are the factors of production. Following are factors of production. Like what do we need over here? We need a classroom, right? We need land. We need teaching staff, non-teaching staff. Labor. We need to purchase this board. We need to purchase this camera. We need capital. And we need someone who can handle it all, who can manage it all. need a entrepreneur. ठीक है, these are 4 factors of production. ठीक है, and corresponding to these factors of production we have factor incomes. We have factor incomes. ठीक है, the one who is giving us land, what does he get in return? He gets the rent. What does the labor get? Wages. ठीक है, हो गया, अब समझो. Suppose this classroom is India. We have people from India over here. तुम सब लोग इंडियन, they are foreigners. पाकिस्तानी, बांग्लादेशी, अफगानी, श्रीलंकन, तुम, Myanmaris, different people, right? Doctor, engineer, teacher, architect, judge, रिक्शा वाला, पानीपुरी वाला, भेलपुरी वाला, समोसे वाला, टिक्की वाला, right? Like this. SBI, Indian company in India. MACD, foreign company in India. Now, what is GDP? GDP की definition देखिए एक बार क्या? Market value of all final goods and services produced by the factors of production within a period of 1 financial year in the domestic territory of a country, right? Now, समझ लो एक बार. In this territory, whatever you guys produce in 1 year, whatever is your salary in 1 year, whatever is the value of your bhelpuri, panipuri, samosa produced in 1 year, we add it up, it comes out to GDP. So what matters in GDP is where is the production taking place. It doesn't matter who is carrying out the production. The production can be done by Indians in India, Indian companies in India, foreigners in India, foreign companies in India. मैटर नहीं करता प्रोडक्शन कौन कर रहा है, मैटर करता है वेयर इज द प्रोडक्शन टेकिंग प्लेस, कहाँ प्रोडक्शन हो रही है. कैन यू अंडरस्टैंड? तो डेफिनेशन देखिए क्या है. मार्केट वैल्यू ऑफ ऑल फाइनल गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज प्रोड्यूस्ड by the factors of production in the domestic territory of a country in a period of 1 financial year. मतलब starting from 1st of April here till next year March, whatever you guys would be producing, whatever these companies would be producing in 1 year, its market value will be equal to GDP. समझ में आ रही बात? तो अब मेरे को यूं बताइए, how much is India's GDP? क्या बेटा? 4 ट्रिलियन. कोई और बच्चा बताइए. 3.8 क्या लीटर, क्या ट्रिलियन डॉलर. जैसे तुम भी इंडियन हो, तुम्हें मैंने जज बना दिया, तो तुम बाहर के हो, तुम्हें समोसे वाला बना दिया, राइट? तो यू गेट योर सैलरी इन डॉलर्स. भैया समोसे कितने का है? 50 सेंट्स. ऐसे करते हो तुम? कितने में कहते हो? You say in rupees, you earn in rupees, right? So we earn in rupees. So as such, India's GDP has to be in rupees. तो बताओ फिर, इरशाद. बता भाई, कितने GDP अपनी? कन्वर्ट कर लो. 3.8 सही है आंसर. 3.8 ट्रिलियन डॉलर सही है. कितना होता है ट्रिलियन? इंडिया में ट्रिलियन थोड़ी. भाई तेरा पैकेज कितने का लगा? 1 बिलियन रुपीज का. ऐसे बोलते क्या बोलते हैं भाई? 2 लाख रुपए का. यही बोलते हैं अब लोग. So India के अंदर it's always rupees, right? It's not dollars. So Indian GDP has to be in rupees. Similarly, Chinese GDP, it has to be in yen. It has to be in yuan, sorry. Japanese GDP, it will be in yen. But then we need to compare the GDPs. We need to see how the countries are faring with respect to each other. Therefore, we convert these currencies into dollars. Then we state कि इंडिया की GDP ये, चाइना की GDP ये, यूएसए की GDP ये. तो बताओ फिर. हाँ जी. भाई सी सेट अभी भी कंपलसरी है, कैलकुलेट करना आना चाहिए. 3.8 इंटू 85 करो, कितना आता है? क्या बेटा? हाँ, इंडिया GDP इज रुपीज. गूगल किया क्या है? अच्छा, मल्टीपल रुपीज 320 लाख करोड़. 1 ट्रिलियन होता है 1 लाख करोड़. ठीक है, 1 ट्रिलियन इज 1 लाख करोड़. तो इंडिया GDP इज रुपीज 320 लाख करोड़. लिख लीजिए प्लीज. लिख लिया. तो व्हाट डू वी मीन व्हेन आई से इंडिया GDP 7%, 8%? ये सब क्या है? इट कम्स इन न्यूज़पेपर, राइट? दिस इज ग्रोथ रेट, राइट? व्हेन आई से India's GDP has increased by 7%, it means ठीक है, it means here in this whole year the GDP was 100. The GDP of financial year 24-25 was 100. ठीक है, and then GDP of financial year 25-26 it comes out to 107. समझ में आ रही बात? So then when we compare, we can say that GDP of 25-26 is more by 7% as compared to GDP of 24-25. Can you understand this? Clear है? अच्छा, अब समझो. Now who calculates GDP by the way? हाँ, मॉस्पी में कौन सा डिपार्टमेंट? हाँ, कौन बोला? गुड. GDP is calculated by NSO, National Statistical Organization, which comes under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. National Statistical Organization comes under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. ठीक है, Statistics and Program Implementation. हो गया? डन? तुम लोग कॉलेज से आ रहे हो क्या? मीन्स यू आर इन स्टिल कॉलेज और पास्ड आउट ऑफ कॉलेजेस? पास्ड आउट, राइट? Like if we have to go from first year to second year, did you have annual exams or you would have exams throughout the year? Like first year हुआ, you did do it completely you keep on reading for 1 year, then after 1 year there would be exam. You pass, you go to second year, you fail again first year. Was it like this? Or did you have unit test, sessional test, semester test, regular test happening? होता था, right? There would be something happening every month. Why would they do it every month? Why not to have just एक बार एग्जाम लो यार, है ना? Let's do it this way or that way. Why would they take regular exam? To check the progress. राइट। तो एक बात बताओगे कि सपोज देयर इज अ स्टेटमेंट which says that India's GDP has gone down by 10%. If there is a state as compared to 24, 25, in 25, 26 the GDP reduced by 10%, right? Should you be concerned? क्यों यार, GDP तो कम हुई है, अपना क्या जा रहा है? Should you be concerned? Why would you be concerned? Okay, someone else? Employment decrease हुई है और बच्चे? Inflation or? Now tell me one thing. GDP would reduce and therefore each of your incomes would reduce, or each of your income is reducing, therefore GDP is reducing. हाँ जी, हाँ, तुम सब लोगों की इनकम कम हुई तभी तो जीडीपी कम हुई, बिकॉज जीडीपी इज सम टोटल ऑफ एवरीवन ऑफ योर इनकम. तो इफ जीडीपी इज गोइंग डाउन बाय 10%, इसका मतलब तुम सबकी इनकम हैज कम डाउन बाय 10%. शुड यू बी कंसर्न? क्यों यार भाई, इनकम कम हुई मीन्स परचेजिंग पावर कम हुई. मतलब अर्लियर आफ्टर एवरी क्लास यू वुड गो एंड हैव पानी पूरी ऑफ 50 रुपीज. नाउ यू कैन नॉट डू इट. व्हाई? Your father doesn't earn the same. Now you'll have to cut down on your expenses. The purchasing power would come down, your standard of living would come down. Are you able to understand this? So what if we calculate it after 1 year and say we calculate after 1 year and say GDP has reduced by 10%? Because look, if GDP, point is, in school, in colleges, you would have those regular unit tests and semester tests. The purpose of having them was that you fail in one, you fail in a sessional exam or a unit test, you still have scope of improvement. It's not that your whole year is gone. But if you fall, if you would have only one exam after end of a year and you fail in that, it means your whole year is gone. But if you fail here in first month exam, you fail, you still have time to recover in second, third, fourth, fifth exam. Are you able to understand? So if we calculate GDP after 1 year, and then we say that GDP has gone down by 20%. It's not that GDP would have gone down by 20% all of a sudden. GDP would have gone down by say 1% in the first month, second month it would have reduced further, third month would have reduced further, so that overall the cumulative effect is reducing by 20%. If we had calculated at a smaller interval of time, probably the government could have done something to stop the slide. Can you understand this? Therefore, we do not calculate GDP after 1 year. Rather, we calculate GDP after every quarter. We would calculate GDP of this quarter, this quarter, this quarter, and this quarter. And then we add the GDP of all 4 quarters. Therefore, we get GDP of the complete year. समझ में आ रहा है बात? Write down. GDP is calculated quarterly. GDP is calculated quarterly. समझ में आ रही है बात? And then the GDP of these 4 quarters, GDP of the 4 quarters is added to give the annual GDP. To give the annual GDP. Is it okay? Clear? So ये दोबारा बनाओ एक बार, make it again. हो गया जी, चले आगे। अब समझो, suppose there is a statement. The statement is that GDP for quarter 2 25-26 increased by 10%. स्टेटमेंट लिख लीजिए, GDP of quarter 2 25-26 increased by 10%, right? ठीक है, पहली बात तो ये समझो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल when you were in colleges, suppose today is the last day of your exam, would you get the result tomorrow? क्यों नहीं यार? Why were your teachers so inefficient? हाँ, किसमें it takes time to evaluate the papers, to compile everything, right? Similarly, GDP will calculate quarterly, right? That's what we have discussed. But we calculate GDP for this quarter 1, right? So quarter 1 की GDP, whatever we are producing in the month of April, May, June, उसको add किया, we will get the GDP of quarter 1, right? मेरा सवाल, when would we get the data? At how much? When would NSO release the data? NSO calculates it, right? When would NSO release the data that this much is the GDP in quarter 1 of 25-26? 15 days नहीं है. There would be a lag. How much lag? क्या बेटा? हाँ, the lag would be 2 months. So we'll get the data. How much is GDP here? Now it's in the month of August, right? So probably after 10-15 days within this batch, by like August end, we'll have data of how much of the GDP of quarter 1. Similarly, data of these 3 months would be available here. These 3 months would be available here. So write down wherever written that part, na, GDP is calculated quarterly, right? Add a sentence over there. Just add single sentence over there. And the data comes out. And the data comes, उठ जा बेटा उठ जा. And the data comes out. क्या उठ जा, हाथ मुंह धो के आ जा. क्या नाम है आपका? प्राण. इमरान, एक बार चला जा. कब से परेशान हो रहा है, या सो जा या उठ जा. तो कहाँ था मैं? And the data comes out with a lag of 2 months. Data comes out with a lag of 2 months. If I'm not wrong, were you my student at Hyderabad? Not from Hyderabad? मेरे को लगा. ठीक है, चलो समझो अभी. Yes, we are here. GDP of quarter 2 25-26 increases by 10%. इसका मतलब कंपेयर टू, मतलब एक what I'm saying is GDP of this quarter, right, increases by 10%. 10% as compared to what? As compared to this? As compared to this. Orange या green? Orange, right? तो याद रखो ये बात हमेशा. But in economics, all comparisons are with the same time period of previous year. लिख लीजिए, in economics स्टार डाल के लिखिए, in economics a comparison would always be with the same quarter of previous year. Same time period लिखिए, same time period के ब्रैकेट में लिखिए क्वार्टर और मंथ. सेम टाइम पीरियड ब्रैकेट क्वार्टर और मंथ ऑफ प्रीवियस ईयर. ठीक है. इन इकोनॉमिक्स ऑल कंपैरिजंस आर विद द सेम टाइम पीरियड ब्रैकेट मंथ और वीक, नहीं क्वार्टर और मंथ ऑफ प्रीवियस ईयर. लिख लिया. मतलब कि समझो, अगर मैं बोलता हूं what does this mean? It means that if the GDP here was 100 and here the GDP is 110, right? So this is the status. If this happens, then we can tell like this. Is it okay? लिख लीजिए 100, 110 and this is the meaning. ठीक है, चले आगे. Next topic. Meaning of some terms associated with GDP. ठीक है, समझो. Suppose these are GDP numbers. These are GDP numbers over a period of time. The GDP of 2011, GDP of 2012, 2013, 14, 15 like this. ठीक है, लिख लिया आप लोगों ने. साथ साथ लिखते रहा करो. ठीक है. ठीक है, अब मुझे ये बताइए कि is there any difference in the first half of the series and the second half? कोई डिफरेंस है? क्या डिफरेंस है? हाँ, सेकंड हाफ के अंदर द परसेंटेज इज इंक्रीजिंग ड्रास्टिकली, राइट? दिस पार्ट, ये जो ना, दिस इज इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ, दिस पार्ट इज बूम। लिख लो फिर समझाता हूँ। राइट डाउन। इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ क्या है? इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ इज इंक्रीज इन जीडीपी। ठीक है इमरान? अभी एक बात समझो तुम सब लोग, लाइफ लेसन दे रहा हूँ, भयंकर लाइफ लेसन। क्लास में लेट आना और क्लास में सोना, ये बच्चों का हक है। जब तक बच्चे हो कर लो। जॉब पे ना कोई सोने देगा ना कोई लेट आने देगा। लेट आओगे उस दिन की नौकरी, उस दिन की तनख्वाह कट जाएगी। सो जाओगे तो हो सकता है वो भी ना मिले, निकाल देंगे। इतने प्यार से कोई नहीं बोलेगा इमरान बेटा उठ जा, इमरान बेटा सो जा, कोई नहीं बोलने वाला। तो जब तक तुम लोग स्टूडेंट हो ये एंजॉय कर लो। मेरे को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मेरी क्लास में बच्चा सो रहा है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, मैं उठा दूंगा, कहोगे तो चाय भी पिला दूंगा। बट जब तक तुम लोग ये सब कर रहे हो तब तक कर लो, कोई बात नहीं, तो बस बाद में थोड़ा मुश्किल हो जाए। बट हाँ, ये इंश्योर कीजिए कि जब कभी आप जॉब पे हों और आपका जूनियर कभी ऐसे थोड़ी सी सो जाए, थोड़ा लेट आए, थोड़ा कंसिडरेट जरूर रहिए। आदमी किसी वजह से लेट हो सकता है, आदमी किसी वजह से सो भी सकता, हो सकता है घर पे कुछ कुछ हो गया हो इसलिए रात को सो नहीं पाया हो, है ना? तो कंसिडरेट जरूर रहिए, कंपैशन जरूर रखिए। ठीक है, बाकी क्लास में सोते रहिए। ठीक है, कुछ डाउट हो तो पूछ लेना मेरे क्लास के बाद, कोई चक्कर नहीं। जैसे एग्जांपल देता हूँ, लॉन्ग टाइम बैक इट हैपेंड विद मी। आई वाज टेकिंग क्लास ओवर हियर, मॉर्निंग 8 o'clock की क्लास। बॉय वुड कम, ये तुम्ही लोगों की एज भाई 22, 23, 24 साल का बच्चा, तो ही वुड कम एंड ही वुड कम एट 8 o'clock, बट बाय 8:30, 8:45 डेली, डेली शेड्यूल था। ही वुड स्लीप, प्रॉपर स्लीप, मतलब कि ऐसा। तो देखा एक दो दिन, उसको बुलाया कि क्या होता है, सोते क्यों क्लास में तुम? यस सर, एक्चुअली आई वर्क इन तिहाड़ जेल एज अ पुलिस, और मेरी नाइट ड्यूटी होती है, तो प्रॉपर नाइट ड्यूटी है। इट्स नॉट दैट आई गो एंड स्लीप ओवर देयर, इट्स जस्ट दैट फॉर द कंप्लीट 12 hours आई एम ऑन माई फीट। बाय द टाइम आई कम ओवर हियर आई एम completely डाउन, completely टायर्ड होता हूँ, बट आई हैव टू डू इट। तो ये है सर, इसलिए नींद आती है। फ्रॉम दैट डे आई मेड श्योर दैट किड वुड हैव अ टी एट 8:45। उसकी नींद आने से पहले उसको चाय में पिलवा देता था, फिर वो बच्चा आराम से 10, 10:30 आराम से पढ़ लेता था, घर जाके सो जाता था। तुम में से कोई है जो तिहाड़ जेल में से आ रहा है? नहीं है ना, तो क्लास में पढ़ो फिर। ठीक है, फीलिंग ले रहे हो हाँ सर की क्लास में सो सकते हैं, कुछ नहीं सोना, मेरी क्लास में जागना ही है। ठीक है, if it had been a 2 o'clock class, believe me, if it had been 2 p.m. class, I would have let you sleep. 2 p.m. means you're coming after lunch, you're already 6, 7 hours of awake, right? Morning की क्लास पक्का 100% की होगी, GS क्लास ऑप्शनल क्लास की होगी, right? then you had a good lunch, AC चल रहा है, दही खा रखा है, रायता पी रखा है, राजमा चावल खा रखे हैं, इट्स गुड रेसिपी फॉर स्लीप। नॉर्थ इंडिया में रिकमेंडेड, नींद नहीं आ रही कुछ नहीं, राजमा चावल खा ले, एक गिलास लस्सी पी ले, सो जाएगा। बट 11 o'clock क्लास, ठीक है, मॉर्निंग है। ठीक है, चलो लेट्स कंटिन्यू। तो इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ क्या है? इंक्रीज इन जीडीपी, राइट? अब बात समझिए, बूम क्या है? बूम इज अ ड्रास्टिक इंक्रीज इन जीडीपी। drastic increase in GDP. अब समझो, जो ये वर्ड ड्रास्टिक है ना, this word drastic is quite subjective. Someone may say 10% is drastic. Someone may say even 50% is not drastic. So boom, it does not have a technical definition. There is no technical definition for it. जैसे economic growth has a technical definition. That if एक minute, if last year GDP was 100, this year GDP is 101. It is still growth. But you go from 100 to 150. Someone may say it's drastic. Someone may say 50% है तो I'll give you 500%. So drastic is not quantifiable. It's subjective, right? So there's no technical definition for boom, but yes, there is technical definition for economic growth, which is increase in GDP. ठीक है, लिख लिया आप लोगों ने? अब समझो. Now, it will not happen in real life that GDP is increasing by 12%, 20%, 66%, 100%. It doesn't happen like this. For example, India's GDP, when it grows at around 7%, India is the fastest growing major economy. India GDP 6%, 7% रहती है. Its GDP growth is much more than the growth rate of US, UK, England, Germany, Japan, even China. They do not even have growth rates of 6%, 7%. Their growth rate is around 1%, 2%. But then there are smaller countries who have growth rate of more than us, 9%, 10% hai. So it's not that this 20%, 66% growth would happen. It would never happen. It's just written like this so that you can understand the difference between this half and the second half. Can you understand this? GDP नहीं बढ़ती है 20% से 30% से. To increase the GDP, for example, India has seen a GDP growth rate of 10% only once in the last 75 years. एक ही बार हुआ है. For example, in the year 2010, we had a GDP growth rate of around 10%. उसके पिछले साल 9% थी. Otherwise, it has been consistently 1991 से लेके since 1991 to 2025, our growth rate has remained in the average of 6 to 7%. And similarly, from 1951 to 1990, our growth rate was around 3 to 4%. समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? So 1951 to 1990, we had a growth rate of around 3 to 4%. This was called Hindu rate of growth. Hindu rate of growth. It was considered that Hindus are not aggressive. Therefore, they are not able to get aggression into the economy. Hence, Hindu rate of growth. But then 1992 में आए सरदार जी, give us a growth rate of around 7%. Sardar rate of growth. Yes, I'm not coining them. These are the terms. तो जो 1992 वाला जो प्लान था, this had Sardar rate of growth. And this period, it is called Hindu rate of growth. ठीक है, अब पता लगा कौन सी चीजें साथ में लिखनी है. This will go together, this will go together. Is it okay? Hindu rate of growth, because Hindus were considered not to be aggressive. चलें आगे, लिख लिया आप लोगों ने बेटा पीछे? हाँ, यस, आपका नाम? तरुणजय, धनंजय? हाँ धनंजय, बता बेटा, डाउट है कुछ? नहीं है तो पूछ ले, बता देता हूँ धनंजय। यू अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी? हैव यू रिटन इट? ओके, अब समझो। सपोज दीज आर द जीडीपी नंबर्स अगेन। हाँ जी, यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? डू यू गाइस फॉलो क्रिकेट? आर यू अवेयर अबाउट कुशल परेरा? कौन है कुशल परेरा? डोंट यू थिंक ही लुक्स लाइक कुशल परेरा? मैं कब से देख रहा हूँ, यस आई हैव सीन दिस बॉय सम, सीन दिस बॉय समवेयर, टीवी में देखा तेरे को मैं। व्हेन डिड यू लीव क्रिकेट? डोंट यू थिंक ही लुक्स लाइक कुशल परेरा? फोटोग्राफ कब से लड़का देखा, कहाँ देखा? गूगल किया? चलो ओके, ठीक है, इट्स ओके। द पॉपुलेशन इज इंक्रीजिंग सो मच, इवन गॉड डजंट हैव न्यू फेसेस, वो क्रिएट करते, एआई यूज कर दिया, गॉड ने यूज किया। कुशल परेरा 10% मैच। व्हाट्स योर नेम? राकेश, राकेश परेरा, ठीक है, चलो करते हैं। ओके, एनी डिफरेंस इन द फर्स्ट सीरीज एंड द सेकंड सीरीज? क्या डिफरेंस है बच्चों? हाँ जी, हाँ हाँ बोल। इकोनॉमिक डिक्लाइन, हाँ जी, कोई और बच्चा? ग्रोथ रेट इज डिक्रीजिंग, राइट? देखो इस केस में क्या है, जीडीपी वाज इंक्रीजिंग, दीज आर जीडीपी नंबर्स, ऑलराइट? इन दिस केस द जीडीपी वाज इंक्रीजिंग, but not only the GDP was increasing, the growth rate was also increasing. सही है? यहाँ क्या? The GDP is increasing, but the growth rate is going down. Can I say this is increase in GDP at a decreasing rate? Right? This is slowdown. Right down. Slowdown is increase in GDP, increase in GDP at decreasing rate. increase in GDP at a decreasing rate, it's called slowdown. Increase in GDP at decreasing rate. एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ. ठीक है. In the year 2016, these are actual numbers, all right. In the year 16-17, GDP was growing by 8%. एक मिनट समझ लो एक बार. खुशी. 16-17 growth rate was 8%. 17-18 के अंदर growth rate was 7%. Positive growth rate है. It means the GDP is increasing. But can I say 17-18 witnessed a slowdown as compared to 16-17? Similarly, 18-19 के अंदर 6% है, here it was 7%. Again, slowdown as compared to 17-18. Comparison would be with the previous year. Slowdown. Can I say from the period of 17-18 to 19-20, India was in a period of slowdown? समझ में आ रही बात? लिख लीजिए. ठीक है. इमरान ठीक है अभी? चलें आगे. What about this? इधर क्या GDP is decreasing, right? This is recession. Recession is fall in GDP. Recession is fall in GDP. ठीक है. Technical definition of recession. Technical definition of recession, or I would say a technical recession. What is a technical recession? Technical definition of recession या फिर technical recession क्या है? Right on. When the GDP falls for 2 consecutive quarters, GDP falls for 2 consecutive quarters, it is called a recession. हो गया जी। तो बताइए कि आउट ऑफ केस 1 एंड केस 2 विच वन इज अ केस ऑफ रिसेशन? फर्स्ट ठीक है, फर्स्ट देख लो तो सेकंड भी देख लो एक बार। टेक योर टाइम, इट्स ओके। हाँ, अच्छा एक बात सुनो, what did I tell you earlier? That in economics all comparisons are with the previous year, right? Same quarter, same time period of previous year. Is the GDP going down here? Yes, it's going down. GDP going down here? Yes, going down. Compare would be like, comparison would be like this. GDP going down, Hanji going down, GDP going down, Hanji going down. We will not be comparing like this. It's quite possible with respect to previous quarter GDP is increasing, but we'll be comparing the same quarter with the previous year. Is it okay? Clear? लिख लीजिए both are, make these arrows and write both are cases of recession. Both case 1 and case 2 are recession. ठीक है, लिख लिया? If this had been the case, that we are comparing quarter 2, that the, this is the status of GDPs in quarter 2 and quarter 3, right? Quarter 2, quarter 3. Is it, would it still be recession? If the GDPs are like this, that we do not know about quarter 1, but in quarter 2 the GDP goes down, quarter 3 the GDP goes down, same goes in this case, would it be still a case of recession? Yes, it would be a case of recession, because ultimately important क्या है? Consecutive quarters. समझ में आ रही बात? अब समझो, ये रिसेशन है, राइट? Then is depression. Depression. Right. Write down. Similar to boom. Similar to boom. There is no technical definition. Technical definition of recession. Sorry. Very good. I was checking you guys. There is no technical definition. हंस क्या रहे हो? There is no technical definition for depression. ठीक? A sustained and steep decrease in GDP. Sustained and steep decrease in GDP is called depression. The time period the time period and rate of fall, the time period and rate of fall is not quantifiable, is not quantifiable. समझ में आ रहा है? मतलब कि how much decrease would be depression or how many years the fall has to take place, that's not mentioned. ठीक है? If this happens, the world has witnessed, एक sentence लिख लीजिए, the world has witnessed one great depression from 1929 to 1939. ठीक है, हो गया क्या बेटा? यस यस यस, वापस आइए यहाँ पे 100, 90, 80, 70, राइट? From 70 it goes to 80, 80 goes to 90, 90 goes to 100 again, right? GDP was 100, right? From 100 it falls to 70, right? After falling down it goes up again and then goes to the original level. What's this called? Good. This is called recovery. Recovery. Write down. After falling down, when the GDP goes up again, to the original level, after falling down, when the GDP goes up again to the original level, it's called recovery. ग्राफ बिटवीन जीडीपी एंड टाइम लिखना नहीं है, समझो एक बार. होल्ड ऑन. दिस इज economic growth, GDP going up over a period of time. This is GDP was here from where it, ठीक है? Here the GDP goes down. This is recession. ठीक है? Now after falling down, it can go up to the original level in a short span of time. It's quite possible it goes up to the original level long time period. It's also quite possible it goes up, but before it is able to reach the original level, it falls again and then goes up to the original level. समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? Multiple ways how the GDP would go up to the original level. It can go up to the original level in a short span of time, and long time period goes up, not able to reach the original level but falls again and then goes up to reach the original level. So we have three different types of recovery. Can you see three alphabets? Which alphabets can you see? V, W and U, right? So first is V-shape recovery. ग्राफ बना लो. हो गया? हाँ बेटा. रिसेशन की डेफिनेशन है, रिसेशन की डेफिनेशन है GDP falls for 2 consecutive quarters, it is recession. Depression, there is no definition. Whether the fall is for 3 months, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, 5 quarters, 2 years, 3 years, when can we call it depression? There is no definition about it. Depression is also fall in GDP, recession is also fall in GDP. A recession can get converted into depression if recession continues for a longer period of time. The recession is once we get a fall into 2 quarters, it is recession. Later on, when that recession is converted into depression, we cannot quantify. Can you understand this? हाँ बेटा. We can, depends on how I make the graph. It's okay. I mean, basically, to this graph, I want to teach you types of recoveries. Right? Write down. First is V-shape recovery. We are discussing types of recoveries. First is V-shape recovery. लिखिए. After falling down, when the GDP goes up, to the original level, in a short span of time. ठीक है. Second is U-shape recovery. After falling down, when the GDP goes up to the original level in a long time period, to the original level in a long time period. ठीक. Third, W shape. U shape is long time period. ठीक है. W shape recovery. after falling down, when the GDP goes up, but before it is able to reach the original level, it falls again. And after that, it goes up. After that, it goes up to the original level. It is called W-shaped recovery. लेबलिंग कर लेना VW U. हाँ बेटा, ठीक है, ग्राफ में डू द लेबलिंग. और ओके, put a star and write, complete recovery. After falling down, when the GDP reaches the original level, जैसे समझो, GDP came down over here, right? GDP fell till here, right? This is the original level of GDP. From where it fell? From this level. Once it reaches here, यहाँ GDP पहुंचे, reaches here or reaches here, right? All these are stages of complete recovery. ठीक है? एक मिनट. Second is incomplete recovery. एक मिनट लिखो मत समझो. What is incomplete recovery? GDP goes up, but it's not able to reach the original level. See, at this point, this is incomplete recovery, this is incomplete recovery, this is incomplete recovery. Here also, incomplete recovery, incomplete recovery, incomplete recovery. So recovery is when the GDP is going up. After falling down, the GDP going up, all of them are recoveries, right? Complete recovery happens when can I say that the economy has gone through complete recovery? Only when it reaches 100. ये जितना position है ना, 70 to 100, right? This portion, this is a portion of incomplete recovery. It reaches here, this is complete recovery. समझ में आ रहा है बच्चा आपको? क्लियर है भाई? हाँ बेटा बता. Beyond that, it's growth. The whole thing repeats. वही वाला system. अब base 100 के बाद वाला बन गया. 100, 105, 108, 120, depends where it goes. So from 100 it goes to 105, it's economic growth. 105 to 108. Last year the growth rate was 5%. Here the growth rate is just 2%. I would say here we are witnessing a slowdown. The same thing repeats. I hope you're able to understand. ठीक है, clear? सबको clear है? तो ये जो portion है starting from 70 to 100, right? This is a portion of incomplete recovery. Beyond 100 it is again the same cycle, right? At 100 it is complete recovery. This is incomplete, this is incomplete, this is incomplete, this is incomplete, this is incomplete. Is it okay with everyone? Good, shabash. Okay, let's continue. Next topic is GDP MP GDP FC, GDP MP and GDP FC. MP is market price, FC is factor cost. GDP at market price, GDP at factor cost. ठीक है, market price, factor cost. Factor incomes, rent, wages, interest, profit. If I add all of them together, right, I get factor cost. So cost on factors of production is factor cost. Cost on factors of production is called factor cost. Cost on factors of production is called factor cost. ठीक है, या फिर sum total of factor income is factor cost. ठीक है, sum total of factor incomes. This symbol is for summation. Whenever we have to tell about summation, we use this symbol. All right, all right. ठीक है, look, if you have to understand the relationship between GDP MP and GDP FC, you need to understand direct taxes and indirect taxes. Okay. So first I'll be telling you the difference between direct taxes and indirect taxes. Once you understand that, then it will be easier for you to understand GDP MP and GDP FC. Okay. To understand direct taxes and indirect taxes, you need to understand two terms. Tax impact and tax incidence. Write down tax impact. Write down tax impact. Tax impact is the initial burden of tax. Tax impact is the initial burden of the tax. It is on the entity. It is on the entity on whom tax is imposed. It is on the entity on whom tax is imposed. Tax incidence. It is the ultimate burden of the tax. It is the ultimate burden of the tax. It is on the entity. It is on the entity who actually bears the burden of the tax. Actually bears the burden of the tax. Suppose my annual income is 20 lakh rupees and income tax calculated comes out to say 1 lakh. ठीक है. So in this case, income tax imposed on Aman, right? So tax imposed on Aman. Who would pay this tax? Won't you pay the tax? You won't pay. So the tax, income tax paid by Aman. Can I say? You won't understand this, no problem. Tax incidence on Aman. Keep it like this, no problem. ठीक है. एक मिनट रुको, लिखो मत, रुक जाओ. You guys taking classes at Shubhra Ranjan IAS. Now Shubhra Ranjan IAS is producing services. If we produce goods or we produce services, right? GST is imposed, goods and services tax. So GST is imposed on production of goods or services. Okay? So whether you produce goods or you produce services, GST is imposed. But this was not the case earlier. Before GST, whenever a good was produced, good, that time center would impose excise duty. So what is excise duty? Whenever a good was produced, center would impose excise duty. Whenever service was produced, center would impose service tax. So there were different taxes for production of goods and for services. You produce a good, for example, देता हूँ कि suppose I produce this glass, I stay in UP and I produce this glass in UP. When I am producing it, center would impose excise duty. समझ में आई बात? Anyone here who is from UP? खुशी कहाँ से बेटा? Banaras. So Khushi is from Banaras. Then what happens? I sell this glass to Khushi. Khushi is in UP. I am also in UP. Seller and buyer both in same state. Seller and buyer in same state. This is called intra-state sale. समझ में आई बात? Anyone here who is from outside UP? कहाँ से बेटा? राजस्थान. तो ये अपना हेमा. Hema is from Rajasthan. I produce this glass and I sell to Hema. Hema, she is from Rajasthan. Glass being produced in UP. Seller in UP, buyer in Rajasthan. This is the case of interstate sale. Can you understand this? Can you understand the difference between intrastate sale and interstate sale? So whenever there was intrastate sale, intrastate sale क्या है? Seller and buyer in same state. whenever there would be intra-state sale, that time the state government, यहाँ पर यूपी रूपी, right? The state government would impose VAT. For example, you would go to malls earlier, you would go to Domino's earlier, you would pay VAT, you would not pay GST. You would pay service tax, you won't pay excise duty because you are getting pizza, service is getting produced. And if there is an interstate sale, that time center would impose central sales tax. समझ में आ रही बात? Good getting produced, excise duty. Service getting produced, service tax. Intra-state sale, VAT. Interstate sale, CST. अभी क्या है? अभी all of them, excise duty, service tax, VAT, CST. No complication of taxes. There's only single tax. समझ में आ रही बात? So why have we brought GST? To like simplify the taxation system. Okay? Just write this up. Write this one part first before GST. Value added tax. VAT is value added tax. Tax on value addition. What's value addition? You will get to know it later. क्या बेटा? We can add, yes, but customs duty is still there. Means it has not been merged into GST. That's why I haven't written it over here. Central sales tax. CST is central sales tax. You guys have a class at 2 o'clock? ठीक है, ये हो गया. We'll continue with this tomorrow. So GST is a tax imposed on goods or services. I'll just take one more minute. So now Shubhra and IAS is giving you service, right? एक मिनट बेटा. धनंजय, you are paying 1 lakh fees, but along with fees, point is Shubhra and IAS is producing services. Or you go to Haldiram's and you have a dosa. Haldiram is giving you a good. In return, you give 100 rupees. अच्छा सॉरी यार, ये कहता नहीं सर 100 में नहीं आता, 180. ओके, माई कैलकुलेशन यार, कम ऑन. ठीक है. But point is, Shubhra Ranjan IAS is producing services, Haldiram is producing services as well as goods. Whenever goods or services are getting produced, GST is imposed. In this case, GST imposed on Haldiram and Shubhra Ranjan IAS. GST is imposed on them. Whoever produces goods or services, government would impose GST on them, but they would not pay from their own pocket. What would it do? It would collect 5% GST, 36 rupees. So that total you will be paying 216. Here you will be paying 18% GST such that you pay a total of 1.18 lakh rupees. But in this case, Shubhra Ranjan IAS keeps with itself 1 lakh only. 18,000 is given to government. ₹36 is given to government. Shall we do it tomorrow? अभी आप लोगों को वो भी हो रहा है, जाना है। ठीक है, ये कल कर लेंगे, कोई बात नहीं, बड़ी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। ये लिख लिया आप लोगों ने? हाँ बेटा, हाँ, ये रह गया आपका, ये लिख लीजिए एक बार। विल कंटिन्यू विद GST टुमारो, राइट दिस पार्ट। लिख लिया आप लोगों ने? हो गया? ठीक है, कल मिलते हैं। जो कराया वो पढ़ के आना, ठीक है? Look, there would be a test every day. Daily there would be a test of 5 to 10 minutes, written test. That doesn't mean you start coming late by 10 minutes. ठीक है, see you tomorrow. हाँ, कुछ भी बताओ।